Yes, indeed, folks, you're tuning to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. VOA! Oh, dear. We'll get into that momentarily. I've got a couple of emails to read first before I do so. Everyone knows VOA is like a hot-button topic with me, so yes, you can expect some unpleasantness coming up a little bit later. By a little bit later, I mean the next couple of minutes. I do have a couple of emails that I would like to read out before we do get on with this. Funnily enough, I've got someone asking me for my take on it. Hey, it's like, hey, TB, this is Radani from Thor... I can't pronounce that. What the hell server is that? Toast. It's called Toast now. Your server is Toast. US. Just wanted to give you huge praise for your total destruction of the forum posters complaining about the new VOA boss last week on the show. It was good to see someone with such entitled OMG epics now mindset get thrashed. Quite satisfying. I'm personally very glad to hear about that the new boss in there actually requires more than just falling on one's keyboard and thrashing about until purple falls out of him. Kudos to Blizzard and goodbye to entitled casuals. Can I also get a shout out to my friend Stack, listening in live for the first time today on my insistence? Yes, you can. Shout out so given. There's one more email that I would like to read before we go on. Unfortunately, I seem to have misplaced it, so it'll just have to wait. Right. Now, we talked a little bit last week about VOA being too hard. But there are other issues, I think, that surround VOA beyond simply the difficulty level. And that's two issues of this. What's the purpose? And is there indeed an issue with both bosses being in the same instance? It's funny, because I read a thread about this, and personally, you know, my first reaction, of course, would be, stop pugging it, you nubs. Like, if you have a problem with VOA, then for God's sake, don't do it in a pug! Anyway, let me kind of describe the history behind this particular thread and complaint. The complaint was simply this, yeah? You've got VOA, which contains two bosses, one of which drops tier 7.5, and the other one which drops tier 8.5, yeah? Both have a large gap in difficulty, although none of them are particularly hard at all, yeah? There's no reason to believe that any of them are difficult. They're not. Let's face it, they're not difficult. And some people seem to believe that this instance particularly, and these bosses were designed with pugs in mind. Now, I don't know where they actually got that impression initially. I think it's because Archive and the Stonewatcher, as in the initial guy who was in there, because it used to only be one boss, was puggable. Yeah, and it was puggable from the outset. Now, the problem I've always had with VOA is that I can't really work out what it's for. It's an instance that you get access to by beating a PvP encounter. That doesn't make any sense. It's like, hey, PvPers, your reward is to go do a raid boss. If they wanted to do that, they'd already go and do a raid boss. I don't know, I suppose it is one of those attempts to try and bring the PvE and PvP games closer together. And I don't know if that's something that I actually agree with. I think there should be some segregation, don't get me wrong. There was actually an announcement today, a blue post, that stated that mana regen would now work differently. Specifically, replenishment would now work differently in arenas. And this is not something they like doing, but it's a good solution for the time being, until they work something else out. Because replenishment in arenas was just ridiculous. Apparently. So I've been told. I don't do arenas, I wouldn't know. But evidently that's what they thought. Now, this is something they've been trying to avoid. They specifically stated in previous blue posts that they did not want to do that kind of thing. They didn't want things to work completely differently in PvP as opposed to in PvE. They didn't want that kind of segregation. And obviously in the past they've wanted PvPers and PvEers to do different stuff. I don't know, maybe they didn't. Maybe it was just an unintended side effect. Again, another blue post said, quite simply, on the subject of the falling popularity of arenas, that people go where the epics are. And at the moment, raiding is where the epics are. But to be honest, if you want the really good quality stuff, you're probably going to have to go back to arenas now, because Ulduar's not face rollable anymore. People went and did Nax and got the free stuff from there, because it was just easier than doing arenas. Arenas is constantly challenging, in some respects. I mean, it's not the kind of challenge that I personally get off on, but some people like it, and I'm not going to dispute that, or question its validity. So, I suppose you could view VOA as being yet another attempt to kind of mix things up a bit. Or maybe they just put it in there because they thought it would be cool. But the fallout of that was that you could acquire 3-piece tier 7.5 or 3-piece season 3, or of course tier 7 and season 2 if you were 10-manning it, by simply going in and killing a boss which is about as difficult as Hogger at level 60. It literally is. There is very little about that encounter that is in any way, shape or form hard. I cannot fathom why people would find that boss difficult. It's not. So it got a reputation for being puggable. And I suppose one of the other arguments was, oh, it's a puggable boss because it's not schedulable by a raid, because you don't know when it's gonna be up. Well, yeah, I suppose you could make that argument, except for the fact that it only takes 5 minutes to kill. Meaning that you don't have to schedule it. You just look at it at either the start or the end of your raid. It's like, do we have control of Wintergrasp? Yes, no. If yes, go kill Archivon in 5 minutes flat and leave. It's not that hard. It's the same as Malagos. Like, we didn't schedule Malagos either. We just did it when we had the opportunity. So the scheduling issues that arise from the fact that you may not own Wintergrasp, therefore cannot go and do VOA, are kind of irrelevant. So I don't think you can really argue it's a puggable boss, or indeed was designed for pugs on that basis. Now, the issue comes up here. Emelon is now in the same instance, right? And what you've got is you've got pugs complaining that they should be in 2 separate instances. And they should be there on the justification that some pugs can only kill Archivon. And some pugs only want to kill Emelon. So those who want to kill both are kind of stuck in the middle, because they share the same raid ID. Yeah? So you've got to go back and kill it. Which of course is not entirely true. The way raid IDs work is simply that you get a raid ID and you go back into that same instance, right? If you, say, didn't start the raid, you go in and kill Archivon. Pugs not good enough to kill Emelon, you all disband. You can go back later with a group of other people as long as they're not saved to another VOA and go and kill Emelon, if you wish. Now, naturally, that's probably not the ideal way to do it, but to be honest, the ideal way to do it would be to kill both in the first place. Then neither of them are hard. The question simply is thus. It's got nothing to do with this raid reset malarkey. In my opinion, it's just an excuse. The question is this. If you want tier 8.5, should you have to be in a good group to get it? And the obvious answer is yes! I mean, go on. Let's find out where this stuff drops, right? Because I can't remember the specific place. Let's find this out, yeah? Let's go and look at Wowhead. Let's all go on a little trip. Bring up your web browser, go look at Wowhead. Now, we're looking specifically for items, yeah? And where they come from. Now, let's talk about, like, the Conqueror's Siegebreaker Battle Plate, which is tier 8.5, as I recall. And it comes, of course, from a token. And that token is the Breastplate of the Wayward Protector. Now, this drops from... Let's find out. It's actually in the Cache of Winter, which I assume is probably Thorin. Maybe. Let's just double check. Yes, sorry, Hodir. Yes. You get it for killing Hodir. That's where some of the stuff is, yeah? In Heroic, you can get the breastplates, yeah? That's what can drop in there, these chest pieces for 8.5. And in the 10-man, you get the tier 8 leggings, all different kinds. Now, as I recall, that's relatively far into the instance. I'm just looking at the map here, and you can clearly see that it's in the Halls of Winter, which I believe you can go and kill straight after you kill XT002. Now, one way or the other, it's going to be a hard fight. It's certainly nowhere near as easy as Emelon. That I can guarantee you. So I suppose the question therein lies, should you be able to get all of this stuff from Emelon when it takes so long to get it from the other bosses in Ulduar, the challenging ones? Well, obviously this stuff's here to stay. Now, I personally totally disagree with the concept of VOA. I think the idea... Actually, I think it's worse for the PvPers. Like, the genuine PvPers who actually work to get, like, their Furious stuff. You can now get this Furious stuff from VOA, of all places. And you could get the Deadly Gladiators, the Tier 3. Yeah? The Season 3 or Tier... I don't know what it is. The Tier 3 PvP gear. You could get that from VOA. The first boss, which is just easy. For God's sake, I've got pieces of that. I don't even PvP. And what's the rating requirement on that if you were to get it normally? I mean, you'd have to actually be good at it to get it. So I don't get that. I think it's way, way worse for the PvPers. And as regards to the puggability of it and the complaints, oh, it should be 2 separate instances, like, no. Actually, I think this is a statement. And this statement says, sorry, we made a puggable instance that dropped really good gear for no apparent reason whatsoever other than to I assume it must have been to appease entitled casuals. I can't think of who else would be pleased by this entire thing. You know, people think that, oh, well, I really suck at the game, but I should be able to get the same stuff as them because I paid the same amount. That's the kind of people that VOA was aimed at. Now, Emelon is a bit of a say no to that kind of attitude. It's not hard by any stretch, but what it does do is ensure that pugs are going to have to kind of stick it out, and are going to have to be reasonably good. Now, if you want to go and attempt VOA and you want to kill Emelon, and you're not in a good enough pug to do it, then consider exactly why you joined that pug in the first place. You should be able to get a relatively reasonable impression of how good these players are by simply looking at the composition of the group. Now, you can assume safely that pugs suck, right? Pugs generally suck from the outset. So if you want to guarantee an Emelon kill, go with your guild. Why would you go with a pug? And that's the complaint right there. It's like, oh, well, I want 2 separate raid IDs because of this and this and this. Well, why don't you just join a pug that was good enough to kill him to begin with? And make sure that you know that. Ask from the outset. It's like, who has done it before? You can tell by looking at the achievements. Yeah, that's one of the useful things about achievements. You can tell how many people have done it. No one in your group's done Emelon? Have a look at the other stuff. Have they killed Malagos? If not, you probably don't want to be doing Emelon with these guys. I mean, you do get an opportunity. Let's face it, you've got like 5 minutes of trash before you get there. You've got ample opportunity to look at the composition of the group. It's somewhat your responsibility. And yeah, I agree, it sucks when you get in a pug and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and these guys suck. Yeah, they're just absolutely all over the place. Scrubs. That sucks, but some of the responsibility for finding good players is on you. And you should always assume that people are going to suck by default until proven otherwise. That's why you get in guilds. Now, VOA being puggable the first time, whether or not that was actually supposed to happen, I don't know. But it was all on this first tier of content that was all pretty easy. Yeah? The only challenging elements of the initial wave of content in Wrath of the Lich King were Malagos and Saltharian 3 Drakes. All of the other stuff was really easy. VOA included. Now this is a step up. Now if you want to stay on tier 1 of content, then you stay on tier 1 of content. That is entirely up to you. That is your personal decision. If you don't feel you're good enough, then don't go any further. However, whining and complaining about getting it split into 2 separate instances, I mean, for God's sake, how many more do you want? We're going to get to, like, the end of the expansion, there'll be, like, 4 separate instances for this damn place. It'll be horrendous. No, it's a silly idea. You don't go into instances with people that can't finish them. That's just silly. Why would you do such a thing? This is a blatant and obvious message that says you can't face roll this instance anymore. And if you have a problem with that, then go join a guild. Or at least get into a capable group of people that you know can actually kill it. It's as simple as that. It's a dumb instance to begin with. I don't know why it's there. Emelon's at least a little bit harder, but not by much. And for God's sake, all it consists of is stay out of the lightning and change targets every now and again. Hard mode, guys. Really. So difficult. You better not try Tetris, or Peggle for that matter, because both are more difficult. Incidentally, Peggle roll, Peggle loot system. Best thing ever. I'm trying to convince my guild to use it. Go check it out. If you go to curse.com, there is now a Peggle mod. Yes, indeed, a Peggle mod for WoW, and it has a loot system and talent tables. I'm not kidding. You can challenge people in the raid to one shot of Peggle in order to decide who gets the loot. It's the best thing ever. Go check it out. But yeah, less whining about VOA, please. It's not real content anyway. And if you really want your tier 8.5, then get in a good group and go get it. We don't need any of this artificial rubbish to cater to people that don't understand the concept of good groups and guilds. Raids should be done in guilds. That's how it was supposed to happen, with people you know and people you enjoy playing with. Shouldn't be an exercise in frustration in which you might get loot at the end, with people you don't know. That's just silly. It's supposed to be a social game. My name is Total Biscuit, and you listen to Blue Please on WoW Radio. We're doing the Illusion of Choice when we come back after the break. Enjoy.